and clock is like our heart. For a human being concerned, heart as how far our heart is important for us. Similarly, the clock is very important for digital design as well. So today we discuss few more advanced topics in timing. So the overview of this presentation is introduction to timing path. So what are the various paths in a circuit? How to analyze path and timing paths, and what do you mean by critical path, and how to find out the maximum frequency of operation of that path or of that circuit. Then what are different timing constraints in designs? While designing a circuit, what are the different timing constraints we need to provide so that the design should meet the required timing. So when we design a circuit, especially digital circuit, it should work for the required frequency as well as should meet, say, the area constraint. So timing should meet means our performance requirement is, say, should work at 100 megahertz is required for that application. Then timing should meet, otherwise the chip or our circuit will degrade the design performance. So that is a important need of timing constraints. We need to constrain our design such a way that it should work for that timing parameters. Then only we can put that chip into, or our circuit into, a system and finally integrate it and meet the performance requirement as a system. So timing constraints are important when we design finally the system. Then when we put some constraints in our design, of course there would be the timing violations. So we need to use some techniques to solve those violations and make the design work in that timing. That is the challenge when we design a digital circuit. So the circuit should meet timing, so there is no compromise on that actually. Then next is the area, then power. So like that, the design constraints we have when we design a chip or circuit. So that is the most challenging when we design a digital circuit. It should meet timing, it should meet the required area, it should meet the power requirements and PVT process requirements. So all those things should meet, then only finally the circuit will work properly into a system. So solving timing violations are also important. And how to solve, what are the techniques to improve the timing performance? That also we need to discuss few techniques. And finally the clock domain, CDC. So when we design a circuit will have multiple clocks, especially digital circuit. When we design, say, our processor PC is working, say, suppose we see our motherboard, the processor is working in gigahertz range, 2.6 gigahertz, 3 gigahertz, 3.2, so like that high gigahertz range. And many other interface components, like say serial port is working in kilohertz range, so 19.2 is the baud, 19.2 kbps. So similarly, PCI Express in gigahertz range, gigabit Ethernet or Ethernet 10 bar 100 Mbps. So like that, various clocks would be there. So various clock domains. So when we design the clock domain crossings, how we do the timing and perform the timing analysis of CDC, clock domain crossings, that is also important. So the overview of this presentation is introduction to timing path, frequency of operation, timing constraints, solving timing violations, and techniques to improve timing performance. And finally, the CDC, clock domain crossings in a design. So coming to the timing path analysis. So before coming to the timing path analysis, let's review the timing parameters we discussed earlier. So what do you mean by TPD? So TPD is the propagation delay. So if you toggle the input, after what time the output would toggle. So that is a propagation delay. And another delay parameter is called the contamination delay. So that is the minimum time required to change the output. So if you see an inverter, so say suppose input X is say changing from 1 to 0 or 0 to 1, then after certain time the output would start toggling, and after certain time it would settle. So like if you see an inverter, it's basically a capacitor is there at the output. So capacitor should charge and finally should settle to a defined voltage level as per the CMOS or whatever technology. So it will take some time to settle it. So output would start changing and finally it would take some time to settle. So that finally if it stabilizes, so that is called the TPD. And moment it starts changing, that time is called the contamination delay of the circuit. So if you see this example, say a typical example, if you see the propagation delay, assume the propagation delay of the gate is 30 nanosecond and contamination delay is say 10 nanosecond. So if you analyze this circuit, so suppose a signal need to toggle propagate from say gate topmost gate to say bottom output Y or bottommost gate output Y. Then there are 1, 2, 3, 4 gates. So 4 into 30, maximum delay would be say 120 nanoseconds, the TPD. However, the contamination delay would be 20 nanoseconds. Like this gate can change and this output can change. Shortest path. So that the minimum time required for the output to start change is basically called the contamination delay of a circuit. Similarly, for sequential circuit, we discussed TPD, propagation delay of the flop, then this parameter contamination delay, then setup time, hold time, and the aperture time. So if you look at the timing diagram, as we discussed, contamination delay moment the input is sampled, say as a flop is concerned, at percentage of flop, the input would be sampled, and after certain time we get the output. So that stable time is the propagation delay, and moment the output start changing, that is called the contamination delay. So minimum time required for the output to change once the input is sampled is the TCD of that sequential circuit or flop. And of course, setup time and hold time window. And the aperture time is called the total of this setup and hold time window is called the aperture time. So these all are the timing terminologies. So what is setup time, what is hold time we discussed, what is TPD, and new parameter TCD, contamination delay of a circuit. And the aperture time is the total time required for the setup and hold. Setup plus hold is called the aperture time. So setup time is the minimum time required for the input to stabilize before the pause edge or whatever the active edge, and hold time is the minimum time required for the output to input to maintain the level. It should not change within the hold. The input should not change within the hold window. Similarly, input should not change within the setup window. So now let's come to the setup and hold time constraints. So you can see the path. So last time we discussed what you mean by path in a circuit is basically a register to register or flop to flop. So in this case, D0 to D1 is a path. So if you look at this path, moment input X or D0 is changing, then after contamination delay TCD, output would start changing, and after TPD it would be stabilized. Q0 is stabilized. So after TPD, propagation delay of the flop, output is stabilized. Then the D1 means after combination logic, the D1 would start changing, and after combo delay, T combo, the output of the combo logic would stabilize, and that should stabilize before the setup time window of the D1 flop. So T setup of the flop 2. So TPD plus T combo plus T setup of the flop 2. So that is called the setup time or maximum delay constraint. TC means time period of the flop. This is the TC, time period of the clock. TC should be greater than or equal to TPD, means propagation delay of the flop 1, plus T combo, combinational delay of the logic, and plus setup time of the flop to D1. So before this H, the input of this flop D1 should stabilize. So that is called setup time or maximum delay constraint of a design. So we have to provide the max delay and min delay. So it's called slow corner when we design. Setup time constraint is called the slow corner, and next we discuss about the hold time constraint. So now look at the hold time or minimum delay constraint. So minimum delay constraint is the first corner when we design an IC, and the max delay constraint is called the slow corner when we design an IC. So if you look at the hold time, the input again D1 should not change after the pause edge for some time. So that time is called the hold time. So if you see the hold time window of this D1, say assume after TPD Q0 is changing, TPD, and after TCD contamination delay, the Q0 would start changing, and after contamination delay of the combo logic, D1 would start changing. So the TCD contamination delay of this flop D to Q plus contamination delay of the combo logic should be greater than hold time. Otherwise, the input, so as with respect to this H, assume this is the hold time window, and within this window, the D1 should not change. So the contamination delay of this flop plus contamination delay of the combo. So after contamination delay, output can change, no problem. Should not change. So if you are not considering the contamination delay, basically we say TPD of the flop, this much TPD of the flop plus T combo, combination delay should be greater than T hold. TPD of the flop, this TPD plus this T combo should be greater than T hold of D1. So that D1 will not change within the hold time window of this flop. So that is also very important interview question. So setup time constraint, most of the people know, but hold time constraint most of the people won't ask in interview. So it's also very important interview question. So hold time constraint is simply, you can say, propagation delay of this flop plus the combination delay should be greater than hold time of this, greater than or equal to hold time of this flop, D1 flop. If that satisfies, then hold time will meet. This is called minimum delay constraint, and other is called, so it's called fast corner, other is called, setup is called slow corner. So you can just analyze the timing diagram. So if you are not considering contamination delay, you can say TPD of this flop plus T combo combination delay should be greater than hold time of this flop, greater than or equal to hold time of this flop, or contamination delay should be of flop plus contamination delay of the combo logic should be greater than T hold. So this is very, very important constraint. So next, let's come to a circuit. So if you consider this is a simple circuit, this circuit, So we can analyze. So as we discussed, a path means flop to flop or register to register is called a timing path. So many parallel timing paths would be there in a circuit. Millions of paths would be there. So if you see this circuit here, say this Q to this D to this D, one path, and this D to this D, another path, and this D2, say this via this AND gate and OR gate to this below D, another path, and this D2, say this D, another path. So we have around 4 or 5 paths in this design. So 1, 2, 3, 4 paths in this design. So now assume TPD of the flop is say 6 nanosecond, and combinational delays TCOM means gate delay, assume it is 5 nanosecond, and setup time is say 4 nanosecond and hold time is 4 nanosecond, and contamination delay of the flop is 3 nanosecond, and contamination delay of the combo logic is 1 nanosecond. So what would be the frequency of operation of this circuit? So you can analyze the frequency of operation. So 4 paths are there. So this D to this D, what would be the time? So if you see this D to this Q, TPD is 6 nanosecond, propagation delay of the flop, and the gate delay, say it is 5, so 11 nanosecond, and should be the setup of this flop. So plus 4, so 15 nanosecond. So 15 nanosecond is this path delay, one path delay. So now if you analyze this path and this path, so if you analyze this flop to this flop path, here again TPD 6 nanosecond plus gate delay is say 5 nanosecond. Again here 2 gates are there. So total delay is now 10 nanosecond. And it should make the setup of this. Similarly, this path also same path. So now total path delay of this path is TPD plus 2 times the gate delay or combination delay plus setup time of this flop. So the total time required for the clock pulse is now TC should be greater than TPD plus 2 times T combo plus TS, that is 20 nanosecond is the total time required for the time period required for the clock, or the frequency of operation is say 1 by 20, 50 megahertz is the frequency of operation of this circuit. So here the path which takes the maximum time is called the critical path. So when we design an IC or complex digital logic, millions of gates would be there and many millions of paths would be there in design. So among those paths, which path is consuming the maximum time? So that path is called the critical path. So we need to start optimizing the critical path if you want to improve the timing to meet our requirement. And finally, we need to try to meet the timing requirement. So path which takes maximum frequency, maximum time is called the critical path or minimum frequency of operation. Similarly, if we look at the hold time constraint, so this flop should meet the hold. So TCD of the flop is three nanosecond, and TCD of the combo logic is a 1 nanosecond. So if you consider this path again, TCD of the flop is say 3 nanosecond and TCD of the combo logic is say again 1 plus 1 2 nanosecond. So 5 nanosecond minimum hold time is required. So now the hold time here it is 4 nanosecond, but the requirement hold time is, if you see, TCD of the flop is 3 nanosecond and TCD of the combo logic is say 1 nanosecond. So this is now 2 is there, so 5 nanoseconds, so that is greater than or equal to hold time. Similarly, if you consider this path, TCD is say 3 nanosecond and TPD so 4 nanoseconds, so it is also meeting the hold time. So here hold time is the minimum path we need to consider for hold time, and for max and for setup time we need to consider the maximum delay path. So here we need to consider this path or this path for hold time analysis where the combo delay is minimum. So TCD plus TCD of the flop plus TCD of the combo logic should be greater than hold time. So here it's 4 nanosecond we get. So I repeat, setup time, we need to consider the maximum delay path for setup time, and for hold time we need to consider the minimum delay or minimum combo logic path for analysis of the hold time. So you can just analyze this. So here we have one critical path, two critical path, this path and this path are called critical path, and that path takes the maximum delay. So that is for setup time constraint, and for hold time we should not take the critical path. Where the combo logic path is minimum, that path we need to take, because if combo logic path is more, then of course that will meet the hold time, but combo logic path is minimum, low, there may be chances of combo logic is less, there may be chances of hold time violation. Combo logic is more, then there would be chances of setup time violation. So minimum delay and maximum delay. So more combo path, combo logic is more complex, setup time violation chances are there, and combo logic is less, very less combo logic, hold time violation chances are there. Hope this is clear, this timing path analysis. So now let's come to the clock skew. So what is skew we discussed is, so with respect to clock, if edge is delaying or changing with respect to source clock, if edge is changing, then it is called a skew. So skews are two types. So with respect to the main clock, say other clocks delay is more, then it is called a positive skew. If it is advancing with respect to the reference clock, then it is called a negative skew. So if you route the clock say from this direction and data path is say from left right and clock is from right left, then negative skew chances are there. Otherwise positive skew chances. Similarly, when we design a circuit, sometimes we may require to advance the edge, so that is also negative skews would be there. So usually we use clock management circuits like PLL, DLL, those kind of logic to generate the advance or delay in clock edges based on our requirement. So if you see you can see the timing, so you can analyze the timing diagram. Say clock flop 1 is initially in black is the original, and clock flop 2 drawn in red is the delayed or skewed clock, positive skewed clock. Okay, so if you see the clock in black, that is the clock, flop 1 clock, and there is a path delay from flop 1 to flop 2 when we route the clock. So that delay is the skew, and that is drawn in red. You can see clock flop 2, that is red. And now if we analyze the timing path, say D0 is the input X. So after say TPD, propagation delay of the flop, Q0 is changing. Then after combo delay, T-comp, the D1 is changing, stabilized. So D1 should stabilize before the setup of this flop, flop 2. So now due to delay, the launching edge is say here. So this is the launching edge where Q0 is launched into the flop, and the sampling edge or capturing edge is shifted to here. Capturing edge is shifted due to the clock skew. So the advantage we get is basically we get more time for the setup window. So that means we can reduce the time period TC of the clock. Say this time period marked in black is reduced into say green. You can see that time period is reduced, and after skew the edge is coming here in green, so that is meeting the setup window of the second flop, D1 flop. So that means we are getting an advantage in frequency. So that means we can further reduce the time period, or we can improve the frequency operation of the circuit. So it's called positive skew. So positive skew, we get an advantage in setup time window, so that we can improve the frequency of operation of the circuit or reduce the clock period. So you can analyze this timing diagram. So all those things you can draw and practice. So now the TC, clock period, should be greater or equal to TPD plus T combo plus TST of the flop minus the T skew, clock skew, TSK. Suppose the clock is say advanced. You can imagine what happens. So the edge would come within the setup window. So that means we need to add the skew also to the clock period. So setup, if it is negative skew, then we have to add it into the setup time constraint. So positive skew means clock is delayed, means capturing clock is delayed with respect to the launching clock. Then we can subtract the skew so that we get an advantage in frequency. Otherwise, we won't get an improvement in frequency if it is negative skew. Means that is advanced means. So now you look at the hold time constraints. Again, if it is positive skew, what happens the whole time? You can analyze the timing diagram in this case. So earlier case, TCD, contamination delay of the flop plus contamination delay of the combo, should be greater than or equal to hold time. So now, due to the shift in edge, the edge is shifted. So that means since the edge is shifted here, the combo path delay also should be more. Otherwise, or contamination delay of the combo path should be more. Otherwise, there is a chance of hold time violation. So you can see. So this is assumed now. Earlier, the hold time window was with respect to say source clock. Now the capturing clock is say shifted. So the source clock and capturing clock are the same edge, then no issue. Since the capturing clock is shifted here, now the hold time window is with respect to the capturing clock. And if there is a signal change within this hold time window due to the cause, that means data is now arriving late with respect to this clock, capturing clock, then there is a chance of hold time violation. So positive skew means delay in clock capturing clock edge would cause the chances of hold time violation, but there won't be chances of setup. We get improvement in case of setup, but in case of hold, there are chances of violations. So now we need to add hold time plus Q should be greater than T contamination delay of the flop plus T contamination delay of the combo logic. Or contamination delay, suppose it's not interview, they may not consider the contamination. We can say TPD of the flop plus T combo logic now should be greater than T hold plus T skew. In case of clock is skew is say positive. In case of negative, it is advantage again. In case of hold, so there are compromise in case of setup and hold time if you see the positive or negative skew. So you can analyze the timing. So launching clock is this clock of f1 and capturing clock is f2. So now the due to skew, the edge of the capturing clock is shifted. Now data is arriving with respect to this edge. So if it is arriving now late, data is arriving late with respect to this edge, then hold time violation of this flop may happen. So now hold time constraint with respect to skew is T hold plus T skew we need to consider. So T propagation delay of the flop plus T combination delay should be greater than or equal to T hold plus T setup of the flop. So now you can analyze the circuit earlier we discussed with the following timing parameters. Say TPD is 6 nanosecond, T combo is a 5 nanosecond, T skew is 5 nanosecond, T setup is 4, T hold is 4, and contamination delay. So now T skew is given 5 nanosecond. What happens to the setup time and hold time? So T skew is assume it is positive skew. So clock 1 is with respect to clock 1, the clock 2 edge is shifted by say 5 nanosecond. So now the setup time would be TPD plus 2 times T combo means 16 plus 5 nanosecond, 4 nanosecond is the setup of the flop minus T skew. So 15 nanosecond would be the minimum time or maximum frequency of operation of the circuit is 1 by 15 nanosecond. And the hold time constraint would be Now T hold is 4 nanosecond and TCD is of the flop is 3 and TCD of the combo logic is 1 nanosecond. So now you can derive the hold time constraint requirement. Of the circuit.
Any problems, Neeraja? Hello, is it not audible for you? Yeah, I think problem with Neeraja. Check your mic. Sorry. Check your speakers. I think sir can continue. No problem.
So similarly, you can analyze the timing path, timing constraints, hold time and setup time constraint with the skew. So hold time constraint TCD plus T combo should be given T hold plus TSK. So if you consider this circuit, TCD of the flop is say 3 nanosecond and T combo is 1 nanosecond, so 4 nanosecond. And now because of the skew, what is happening? T hold plus T skew is 9 nanosecond, but here it is 4 nanosecond. So if you draw the timing within the hold window, there would be timing violation. So you can draw the timing for hold. So first clock f of 1 would be, clock 1 would be, say, assume this clock, and clock 2 is the second clock with 5 nanosecond skew you need to draw, and draw the TCD and TCD of the combo flop and combo logic. So that would change, say, within 4 nanosecond. But if now we need to draw the setup window with respect to this edge, so that is 4 nanosecond. So correctly at the edge, this would change. Then there would be a hold violation. So that you draw the timing and analyze in this case. So in that case, we need to increase the combo path delay. Otherwise, the hold of this flop would violate. So because of this positive skew, there are chances, means data would be arriving late at the input with respect to the edge, then there would be chances of hold violations. So now let's come into the timing constraints. So we have discussed setup time and hold time constraints. So setup time and hold time constraint without skew, and a timing path analysis, and with the skew, what happens? So these are called basically setup time and hold time constraints. We no need to give actually when we design the IC. There are fast and delay corners. We need to set that into. We need to basically characterize that libraries, max library and min libraries are available. So we need to characterize that constraints. Actually, this should be my max delay and this should be my min delay. So min delay is for hold and max delay is basically for setup. So now coming to the other timing constraints which we give. So minimum basic constraints, let's discuss what are the important constraints when we convert our, say, circuit, our design, Verilog or VHDL design into a digital, finally gate level circuit. So we have basically clock constraints. So the one most important is the clock period. and the clock uncertainty. So of course, clock period decides the frequency, and along with the clock uncertainty, that means the clock shaking, basically clock jitter and clock skew, also coming into the calculation of frequency. So we need to reduce the whatever the jitter or skew, then we need to finalize the frequency, final frequency of operation. Basically, we need to give the margin, timing margin of the clock. Say 10 nanosecond is my period, or that means 100 megahertz. So we need to provide some margin, say this much percentage margin, the circuit would operate at this frequency. Then, so clock is the most important. Then next, other than clock, we have other constraints like IO constraints and false path, multi-cycle path. Those kind of constraints are also available based on our designs. So input-output constraints or IO constraints are important when we put finally our circuit into a system or our IC into a system, because from the external world, data would come to our pin, and from our chip or our logic, data would go out to another external world. So from other clock, with respect to clock, data would come to our chip or logic, and from our chip or our logic, data would go to out to any other external world. So there comes the importance of IO constraints, and others are called false path and multi-cycle path. These two are also another important constraints when we design our circuit. So many constraints are there in case of clock. So clock period and clock uncertainties are the very basic constraints. So let's discuss what is false path. So false path is basically not a valid path for timing. So when we design a circuit may have many, so latch to latch or flop to flop timing we discussed. So other than that, many other paths also would be there in a design. So those paths are called false path, and that is not basically valid for timing, constraining the timing. So all the asynchronous path in the design are basically false path, no need to constrain it for timing. And the static path, any static path, fixed permanent path in the design, no need to consider for timing. Then any non-functional path. So when we design a circuit, sometimes there are chances of getting some other non-functional path, so that path may never occur. So that kind of path also we can constrain it as false path, no need to consider for timing. So in false path are three types: asynchronous path, static path, and non-functional path. So coming to the asynchronous path. So when we design a circuit, as I mentioned earlier, a design will have many clocks. So not a single clock, especially in many of the complex ICs if you see. So processor core will operate one frequency, interfaces, many interfaces will operate some other frequency. So IO would be different frequency, core would be different frequency, like that. Many clocks would be there. So one clock domain, say processor need to transfer data via some interface to say some other processor. So via DMA or via PCI Express or Gigabit Ethernet, transfer the data. So there would be a clock domain crossing, means processor clock to the interface clock. So clock 1 and clock 2 are asynchronous, say assume each other. Then while transferring a data from this clock domain to next clock domain, so that path is called basically an asynchronous path, because we don't know with respect to this edge when the data is coming here. So we need to ignore. So CDC, clock domain cross transfer path, we need to say this path, this clock to this path, say clock 1D to this clock 2D is a false path. So no need to constrain it for timing. We need to ignore it. So otherwise, a lot of timing violations will come in that path. So we need to analyze with the clock domain crossing path. Let's ignore it for timing. So that we can set as false path. Then other paths are called static paths. So like a simple example of a static path is a reset to Q. So moment reset is happening, output of the flop would go into 0. So reset to Q path, no need to consider for timing. We can say it is false path. So basically in digital designs, when we design the circuit, there would be clock management circuitry. So most of the time we use asynchronous reset, and moment reset is initiated, the entire clock management circuitry would reset. Basically PLL based clock management or DCM based clock management circuitry would be incorporated in design for proper clock management. And the moment reset is initiated, the entire clock would reset, and before the clock is getting stabilized, all the flop output would be stable. So no need to consider those kind of path for timing analysis. That also we can set as false path. Similarly, suppose we have many interfaces in our design. So interface to interface, some logic is there, and we are sure that the interface output are stable before the clock. That path also we can consider, we can ignore for timing, and we can say that is false path. But you should have thorough knowledge about that interface, and we need to ensure that before the clock the data is stable. So those kind of path we can fix as false path. So false path are basically asynchronous path, static path, and next is the most important is the non-functional path. So if you analyze this circuit, this path, say D to this D. If you analyze, say select is 0, this path, this input Q would be selected and come at the output. However, here select would be 1. So this, from this path only, suppose some other logic is connected to this input, one input of the mux, data would come from this input to say this output to this D. So this path never be selected. Similarly, select is 1, this path would be selected. Here 0, this path would be selected. So data would come from say this path to this path. So this D to this D, there won't be any path if you consider logically. That is called a non-functional path. So suppose there is a huge combo logic here, and of course that is required, say this path 1 to this path, or say this path to other path, that would be required. But when we consider for timing won't see the functionality of the circuit. It would only look at the flop to flop path. So suppose here huge delay is there. So in this path that will come. And if we assume, if we are sure that is non-functional path in our design, we can set that path also as false path. So that is up to the designer's knowledge. So based on the designer's knowledge, false path we need to set, like asynchronous path, like CDC, clock domain crossings kind of path, any reset kind of static path. And if you are sure that the data would be stable before the clock, so no issue, then that path also we can set. Similarly, any non-functional path in our design, so that path also we can set it as false path. So that means these paths we now need to consider for a timing analysis. So next comes the multi-cycle path. So when we design a circuit, usually when we design an IC, so the libraries will have, say, fine-grained logic circuits as well as called coarse-grained logic circuits. So fine-grained logic circuits are like based on NAND gate, NOR gate, fine-grained. and AND or invert gate. So those kind of gate-based logic and flops, of course, flops also are called fine-grained. Means very small standard cells would be used in case of fine-grained, and coarse-grained modules are basically called memory macros. Like memories we can use directly in our design, and ILUs, arithmetic ALU kind of logic, adders, multipliers. So those kind of logics directly we can use in our design. So based on the standard cell or library coarse-grained circuit characterization, the delay would be characterized by the library. So say the library say my delay is, say for example, an adder. The circuit, if you analyze, say 2 registers of 16-bit output we are adding. So we clocked the data into the register and giving to the adder, and adder output again we are flopping into the or storing into a register, say to 16-bit, and output is of course it is 17-bit. One carry will be there. So but our frequency of operation is, say, PC 5 nanosecond, means 200 megahertz. Our chip is functioning, but when we use this kind of coarse-grained circuit, the delay of that logic, combo logic, is say more. So ALU, suppose we are using that, delay is more, say it is 20 nanosecond. So that means to complete the add operation, it takes, say, 20 nanosecond, but my clock is, say, 5 nanoseconds. So my design is functioning, say, at 5 nanoseconds. All the paths are okay, but since I use this kind of logic, and we cannot split this also. Otherwise, we have to use small adders and series of adders, small adders, small delay adders, and we need to complete the functionality. But instead, we can use this adder. But if the path, if you see this D to this D, the delay would be, say, TPD. Of course, we suppose we ignore this setup and TPD. So T setup TPD plus T combo plus T setup of this flop. So would be more than 5 nanosecond, means minimum 20 nanosecond for combo logic itself. So, but we know this path is okay, but it is taking more than one clock cycle. So that path we need to constrain it as a multi-cycle path, and in the design we need to consider for those kind of circuits, we need to put some extra logic, and we need to consider this adder, and we need to put some extra logic to match with the delay requirements. Say for example, say we need to derive a clock something like this, or pulse something like this, for every 4 or say 5 clock cycles whenever we need to add it. So there would be, when we consider a design, there would be the add enable or something logic would be there. So based on that, we need to generate a pulse, so that this during the pulse data would be loaded, and after the delay next pulse should come, so that this would be registered at the output. Say we can give for, say, 5 or 6 nanoseconds, 6 clock cycles delay, more delay we can give, and properly we can register the output. So there should be an extra logic in this case we need to put, but that path is valid for the as functionality is concerned, and we can model that path as a multi-cycle path. Means it takes the path which takes more than one clock cycle in this case. Of course, we can go with a low frequency of operation here, but when we generate an internal clock that for this kind of very less complex logics, so logics are very less, and a clock, if you want to generate, that will create unwanted complexity when we do the physical design backend, basically. So that is a problem. So instead we can generate a logic to latch the data properly or handle the data properly, and constrain that path as a multi-cycle path. So this is called a multi-cycle path. So we have false path, means path never occurs, or we don't need to consider that for timing. And we'll have multi-cycle path in our design, means path which takes more than one clock cycle is called multi-cycle path, and that is valid as functionality is concerned. So we should make sure, designer should make sure that that is valid for functionality is concerned, then we can consider it as a multi-cycle path. So next important constraint is our IO constraints, basically input delay and output delay. So input delay is with respect to launching clock. So when we design our digital logic or digital IC, we should have idea where we are going to put this IC along with which interface. Say whether we are going to interface this with an ADC. ADC output is coming to our chip for further processing, or we are going to interface with an IO controller like PCI Express high-speed controller or a slow-speed device. So what kind of device we are going to interface? So what would be the external delay? Means with respect to the launching clock, what would be the delay to our chip or our logic? So data would arrive after some time with respect to the source clock. So there would be, in a system, there would be an oscillator, clock oscillator, and oscillator delay also we need to consider when we need to think about the system aspect. And from clock generator to what would be the delay to my chip, that is called the source latency. So we need to model that also when we design the chip. Source latency we need to model. That means in a system there would be a clock generator, so that clock generator to the clock pin delay of our IC or logic delay, and with respect to the source clock, what is the data arrival time, data arrival delay. So that is called the input delay. So we need to model. So set input delay is a command is available in Synopsys constraint. So that is called the input delay. So that is with respect to launching clock. So when we design an IC, we should have an idea where we are going to put it, that IC. So accordingly, what should be which interface we are going to connect this IC, and that interface to this our input delay, external delay, is called the input delay of our IC. So that also we need to constrain it. So finally, when we put it in the system, the chip should work. Similarly, we have the output delay, that is again with respect to the capture clock. Again, source latency would be there, and once the data is pumped out of our chip, what would be the time required to properly capture it by a capture clock? So once the data is ready and we pumped the data with respect to, say, most of the time when we design an IC, the output should be registered or flopped. The advantage is with respect to clock, the output would be sending out, so that when we put it into the system, the overall timing of the entire system also would meet the requirement. Otherwise, if you are putting a combo logic in between and sending the data out, so that combo delay plus external delay would come, so that overall frequency may come down. So otherwise, this register output to, say, this register input, this external combo delay, whatever logic delay only. Or directly if you are registering, that is well and good. Complete system will work much better frequency. So output delay also we need to model. So that means data capturing to the external world, what would be the delay happen, that is called the output delay. So we have input delay and we have the output delay. So input delay is with respect to launching clock, and also we need to model the source latency, and output delay is with respect to the capture clock. So that is external to the chip. So now coming to the clock constraints. So most important constraint is the clock period. So as we discussed, flop to flop maximum delay path is the clock period. That is a critical path. So what would be the critical path time period delay? That would be the clock period, and 1 by that is our frequency of operation. And the clock uncertainty, of course, is the clock skew and jitter. So basically, there would be clock edge variation. A jitter is basically called clock shaking. So there would be clock edge variation. So we need to fix the margin basically. So say usually 10% of the clock period we fix as the margin, so that the shaking can go say 10% of within the 10% of the clock period. So we need to model the clock uncertainty as well. And of course the slack. So when we design the circuit, we say based on my final system performance requirement, my chip or my logic should work at say 100 megahertz frequency. So that is our required time. So 100 megahertz means say 10 nanosecond is the clock period. So that is my required time. So within 10 nanosecond it should work. And once we completed our design, the logic gates level design is completed. If you see the frequency of operation, suppose it is coming less than that, that means delay is more. Say it is taking 12 nanosecond or 13 nanosecond delay, means frequency is coming down. We are not getting the 100 required frequency. So if frequency is coming down, problem is finally our system level performance, say within this time, finally I need to get this output that we may not get. It may take more time. So that difference is called actually slack. So required time minus the actual circuit time what we are getting is called the slack. So slack should be always positive, so that we can say our circuit would operate with the required frequency. So my required time is 10 nanosecond, and after forming the circuit, my maximum delay path is 8 nanoseconds. So 10 minus 2, so it's a positive slack. So slack should be always positive or 0, so that we can say our logic will work at that whatever the required frequency of operation. So negative slack means timing violation will happen. So we need to fix that timing violations and try to achieve the required frequency of operation. Then only finally we get the required performance. Otherwise, we will have the performance degradation. So slack is very important terminology as timing is concerned. It is difference between the required time and actual or achieved time. And slack should be always positive or 0. It should be positive. So now coming to solving, so we see, let's discuss few techniques to solve timing violations. In circuit level. So setup violations, of course, we can reduce the frequency if performance is not a concern. Say I can go, I fix it say 100 megahertz, but if I am getting say instead of 10 nanosecond, 15 nanosecond is the path delay, critical path delay I am getting. So if I can reduce the frequency of operation, okay, it is fine. No, it may not degrade much my performance. It is fine. We can fix the setup time. So reduce the frequency or increase the time period. Then otherwise we can, so my performance, I am very stringent in my performance requirement. Of course, then we need to optimize the combination logic, combo path. So combo path we need to see, and Boolean optimization is possible. whatever optimization if you perform, so we need to identify the critical path. So in that path, it is possible to optimize that combo logic and try to reduce the delay. So if you consider this circuit, D0 to D1 one path, D1 to D2 path, and D2 to D3, all are the three paths are there, all parallel path we have. And which path is taking the maximum delay? So that combo logic try to optimize so that we can get performance improvement. We cannot change the setup and hold, that would be fixed. Then of course we can use techniques like pipelining, retiming, etc. to improve the frequency of operation. So pipelining means we can split the combo path by adding in between flops, and retiming means we can change the register locations so that it will improve the frequency of operation. So those kind of techniques we can try to improve the setup time violations or improving the frequency of operation. Then of course we can play with the clock skew also. If it is hold is not violating, we can try to skew the clock and try to improve the frequency of operation. You can introduce the positive skew and try to improve the frequency of operation. So if combo path delay is more, then we can try to skew the clock also. We can change the clock network. So we can change the clock network. We can change the combo logic. We can optimize the combo logic. We can split the combo path. We can change the register locations to restructure the registers. So those kind of techniques we can adapt to improve the timing violations. So another, suppose there is a hold time violation. So we can recall this example. So if you see this circuit, TPD is say 2 nanosecond and the T inverter is 2 nanosecond. So 4 nanosecond input would change, but T hold is 6 nanosecond. So the requirement hold time constraint is basically TPD plus T combo logic should be greater than T hold. But in this case, TPD plus T inverter is combo logic is 4 nanosecond and T hold is 6 nanosecond. So within the hold time window. So this with respect to the clock, if you see hold time window and suppose input initially assume Q is 0. So after say TPD, Q0 will change because D would be 1. And again after combo logic, means inverter logic, D0 will change. So the hold of the D0 is changing. So here we need to add say buffers. We can put buffers of 2 nanosecond delay or add 2 more inverters so that we can fix the hold margin requirement. So data path we need to change, or we need to change the clock network so that we can see. So add delay. So suppose hold time violation is happening. So of course we can add some buffers in the data path also so that the requirement say T PD of the flop plus T combo is greater than T hold of the flop. So hold violation would occur wherever the combo path is less delay, and setup violation will happen wherever combo path is causing more delay. So both we need to consider. So combo path delay is more, setup chances are there. Combo path delay is less, hold chances are there. So in that case, hold violation is happening. We need to increase the combo path delay or the data path delay, provided it should not again violate the setup. So that usually we can do because usually setup violation, setup will have a lot of margin as compared to the hold. So another important thing is latch based timing also we can adapt. So you analyze this circuit. So how a latch behaves. So that is also very important as interview is concerned, the timing of a latch. So if you consider this circuit, say assume input is changing, say, so Q0 is toggling. So because of input is changing, Q0 is toggling from say 0 to 1, then 1 to 0. So assume input is similarly changing, D0 is changing. So accordingly, Q0 is changing. So if you consider a latch, what happens for the timing of a latch? So this is a active low latch. So if you consider for a latch, the latch would be transparent moment the enable is low in this case. So whatever input is there, that would be transferred to latch output when the enable is low. So repeat, latch would be transparent when the enable is active. So in this case, say clock is connected as the enable and it is active low enable. And where the latching will happen. So latching will happen at the, in this case, positive edge of this clock. So the setup time window of the latch would be now with respect to say this edge. So this would be the setup and this would be the hold. So whenever you draw a timing for a latch, so I suppose latch is a active high latch. During this time, say input is say something like this, and if you can draw the output, so output here is transparent at active high, assume, and the latching will happen at this neck edge, and it will continue till the next active high, and again here it is low, would be low. So that is the timing behavior of a latch. So in this case, it is active low. So this would be transparent, input would be transparent during the active low time, and at pause edge that would be latched. So if you consider this circuit, say input is changing like this, so Q1 is equal to, now the latch output would be transparent. So moment here it is high, that is transparent, after latch delay transparent, then it would continue half the clock period, same data, it will hold it for that much of time. Then again, if you see, again here it is low, and again it will hold for next half the clock period, then only again it will change. So if you consider this input D2, now D2 will be stable for more than one half, near at least half a clock period, D2 would be stable because of the latching operation. So this kind of latch based circuits also we can use to solve timing, but usually latches are not preferred. If you are very much sure, that this is required, then that kind of designs can also be adapted. So but latch based timing is also very important when we go for an interview, how a latch is behaving, and latch based timing is also we need to practice. Usually we won't use, but any critical we can go with the latch based designs also. So now another technique is, so we can change to fix the timing violations. We can change the data path. Similarly, we can change the clock network as well to improve the timing. So we have seen the how the clock skew is improving the setup as well as improving the hold. So if it is positive skew, we can get improvement in setup. If it is negative skew, we can get improvement in hold. So if you look at the circuit, suppose D1 to D2, there is a setup problem violation. So this path have no problem. So always remember paths are parallel only. So this is also all this path will operate in parallel, not sequential. By looking at the circuit, don't imagine that the paths are operating in sequential. It is operating in parallel only, because moment this data is here, that this circuit is working, and with the previous data, this circuit is working with the previous data at the D2 input, this circuit is also functioning. So all are functioning in parallel. So assume D1 to D2, there is a setup violation. So the tool will, or we can get the so assume this path. So as I said, by considering this circuit, don't imagine that these are operating in sequential way. So D0 to D1 operating parallel. So previous data of D1 to D2. Similarly, previous data of D2 to D3, the circuit is functioning, means all are operating in parallel. And assume this D1 to say this D2, we have a timing violation, setup timing violation. So this path, now what we can do, we can introduce a positive skew. So if you add a buffer at this path, we add a buffer here, then the delay of this path would be more as compared to this clock. So this clock and this clock would be delayed. So with respect to this clock would be delayed, so that we get a positive skew, we get an improvement in setup, provided it should not violate the hold. So hold mostly it will not violate, because combo, the setup violation is happening because of the huge delay in combo path. So we can change the clock network by adding say 1 or 2 buffers, we can add it and try to fix that setup violation. Similarly, if you have a hold violation, we need to remove, say, this path to this path, there is a hold violation. Let's remove this delay and try to reduce the clock skew. Try to remove this buffer and try to reduce the clock skew. So remember, all the paths are operating in parallel. So this path to this path, there is a hold violation. So try to reduce this buffer, clock buffer, and try and check whether hold is going. Similarly, we can try to route the clock. So suppose no issue, only some path are having, we can try to route clock from this, means data can route from say this direction, clock can route from this direction, so that there are chances of solving the hold violation because of the positive skew. But we need to be sure that there won't be any setup issue when we change the clock routing or clock network propagation. So this kind of technique we can adapt when we try to fix the timing violations. So setup time violations and hold time violations. So we can use various techniques to reduce the setup, to solve the setup time as well as solve the hold time. So now more advanced techniques are also available. So one technique is called retiming. So retiming is also part of pipelining. So retiming means changing the flop locations to improve the timing. So if you look at this circuit, so we have the 3 inverters here. And after the inverters, we have say 2 more flops. So this is X, this D0 to this D1 is one path. And this D1 to this D2 is of course another path. And this D2 to D3 is another path. So if you see the path which consumes maximum delay would be of course this path. Say assume inverter delay say 2 nanoseconds, so 6 nanosecond delay here. So TPD plus T combo plus T setup of this. So total time period would be here, but here only we need T combo is 0 here, and here also it is 0. So we have only TPD plus T setup of this flop and TPD plus T setup. So among these 3 paths, we have the path which consumes maximum is this. So now if you look at this circuit, what we can do, we are changing these flop locations from here to say this inverter in between here. Similarly, this flop to between these 2 inverters, and finally third flop is same. So if you are restructuring the circuit, something like this. Annotations are visible now.
Hello, Dilip. Can you see the annotations now?
Yes, sir. Sir.
Okay.
So we can change the flop locations. So if you look at the circuit, the functionality of the circuit won't change. Say if here input is say 0, here it would be 1, and that 1 would come say after 2 more clock cycles. So similarly here also whatever input is 0, here 0 will come, here 1 will come, and the previous next clock 1 will come here and again 0, and next clock here 0 will come and again 1, and next clock again we get the 1 here. So if you draw the timing diagram of this circuit, both circuit functionality would be same, but here now advantage is say this D0 to D0 D1 path and D1 to say D2 path, D2 to D3, all the path will exhibit the similar path delay. So TPD of this flop plus T combo plus T setup. So suppose inverter delay is 2 nanosecond, the maximum path delay would be say 6 TPD plus this T combo plus this T setup. But in this case, it is TPD plus 3 T combo plus T setup. So this kind of techniques are called retiming, so where we can change the flop locations and improve the critical path timing and hence the frequency of operation of our circuit. So now if you see another, we can look at another example of retiming. So if you look at this circuit, say 1 time unit is the delay of say this NOR gate, NAND gate, and 2 is the 2 time unit is the delay of this XOR gate. So now suppose this is the path. If you are splitting the path by adding the flop here, So whenever we split the path, we need to ensure that the functionality will not change. So here, if you split this path, one clock delay would happen initially. Further, it will be fine. So we have added 3 flops here. Now, if you look at the next circuit, we are adding the flop at this path, at this output instead of here. So both would give the same file. That means whatever the flop at the input, we are pushing to output. So here now these 2 flops are pushed into output. So advantage is 2 registers are reduced, register minimization is happened, and the functionality also would be same. However, 1 clock delay would be there at the output because of adding the 2 flops here. So this is also another technique of retiming. So retiming, we can change the register locations. While changing the register locations, if possible, try to minimize. So whatever input side, if it possible to push into output, of course we get, so input side many registers are there. If you are pushing that into output, of course we get reduction in registers, also minimization of the in registers as well. So that also will get improvement in hardware area and also improve the timing. So this is also called retiming. So this kind of techniques we can adapt to improve the timing. So based on our circuit design knowledge, we can restructure our circuit so that it improves the timing as well as area. So timing is the most critical, second is the area. So next important thing is pipelining. So that is also another technique. So you can look at this circuit and this circuit. So if you see, the path here is D0 to D1 is the path. And here it is D0 to D1, D1 to D2. So we have added, say, 2 more flops in between these 2 inverters. So 2 more flops are added, here 1 flop and here 1 flops are added. So if you look at the timing, circuit functionality, so X is 0 here. Of course, after this combo, after TPD and combo delay, 1 will come and it should be valid before setup and it would be sampled, and by next clock edge output will be 1. If it is changing, similarly circuit would function. So here also same way, X is 0 here, here 1 will come, 0 will come, here 1 will come, next clock edge that 1 will come here and 0 will come here, and next clock edge that 0 would come here and 1 will come, and next clock edge that 1. So basically, if you look at these 2 circuits, here we have more delay in getting the output, but here there is no delay. Immediately next clock edge will get. But this circuit path is simplified, means combo delay is splitted by adding flops in between these 2 inverters. So you can look at the timing. Suppose say X is changing from 0 to 1 here. Y would be changing from 1 to 0. Say assume Y is 1 means 1 to 0 after immediately after the next clock edge, after TPD of the clock flop. But in this case, it takes a 1, 2, 3 clock cycle delay, then only Y will change. So in case of second circuit, output would change after, say, 2 more clock cycle delay, but here immediately by the next clock edge, output would change. So if you introduce pipelining, problem is we are adding more registers, but we are splitting this path, but we are getting a delay at the output. That is called the pipeline latency. So break the combo path by adding flops in between, adds latency at the output. There is a delay, improves the throughput. So how to improve the throughput? So you can look at this timing. So assume X is changing. X is toggling from 0 to 1. X is toggling, keep on changing. So what happens at the output? So if you look at the circuit, moment X is, say, assume this input is, the flops are cleared. So moment the flops are cleared, initially Q0 is 0, Q1 is 0, all the output Q0 is 0, Q1 is 0, Q2 is 0, and of course Q3 also 0. Flops are cleared. So moment the flops are cleared, since Q0 is 0, here say Q2 0, here 1 comes. So next clock edge here 1 comes. Similarly, here also 1 comes. Similarly, since this is 0, here 1 comes. So again, here 1 comes next clock. So here 0 comes next clock. Then again here 1 comes. Again here 0 comes. So this is 0, here 1 comes. So here 1 comes. So this is 0, here 1. So next clock edge, this is 1, this is 0. And again, this is 0. And this would be 1. So output also would be 1. So output would be stuck at 1. Assume if it is cleared. So remember, all are operating in parallel. So every POSIX, I hope you are very clear about the drawing the timing of the flop. So we need to consider previous data while drawing the timing. So now assume X is toggling. So X is toggling, say 0 to 1, 1 to 0, same way. So what happens? So first clock, moment X is 1. Of course, we have 3 inverters. So after first clock, second clock, third clock, output would go low. So first clock, the pipeline would be filled here. That time 2 clock latency. Second clocks, this data would be pushed to. So first clock, pipeline will be filled here. This is first clock. Second clocks, that whatever X0 will be coming here. Third clock, data would be coming here. So assume, I hope we all of you learned fetch, decode, execute, very simple pipeline. So first fetch, decode, execute, output will come. So while fetch, decode, execute is happening, next time what is happening in pipeline fashion? So while fetch is happening, decode is happening. So here fetch, decode, execute. While execute is happening, so here decode is happening, again fetch is happening. So in that way, fetch, decode, execute, first pipeline will be filled. So by that time, say first instruction, assume the instruction 1 is executing, second instruction would be in second. So first instruction is executing, second instruction would be in decode stage, third instruction would be in fetch stage. So while the second instruction is executing, again third instruction would be in decode stage, and fourth instruction would be in fetch stage. So that you can recall. Similarly, here also you can combine with that, say first fetch, fetch, decode, and here execution is happened. Third execution, fetch, decode, execution. So first, second, and output has come, executed, output has come by the next clock edge. So by that time, say second instruction would be in say decode stage. So moment the first instruction is executed, second instruction will be, so now first instruction is gone, second instruction is executing, so first is gone. So like that, pipeline will be keep filling. So if you look at this pipeline stage, initial latency would be there. Further, we will be getting the output per clock cycle. Every clock cycle, then further output would be toggling. So you can draw the timing and analyze. So this is called pipelining. So it takes say 3 clock cycle to fill the pipeline. Further, previous data would be ready. By the time next previous would be next, like that data would be keep pushing, and per clock cycle we will be getting the output ready. So this is very important concept. So pipelining, when we need to do the pipelining, we need to identify which path is taking most time. So that path we need to split it so that initial there would be a delay. So that delay won't be much problem because most of our design would be operating in a streaming fashion. So we can ignore the delay, initial delay, no issue. Further, we will be getting the throughput. So advantage is say 6 nanoseconds. So is the combo delay, we split that into 2 nanosecond. So actually single clock means we require more say clock period, we may require more clock period. But if you pipeline it, clock period, we can reduce it. That means we can improve the frequency of operation of the circuit. So this is also another technique. So this is the most commonly used technique in RTL design. So this we have to do in RTL level to split the pipelines. So this is called pipelining. It's a very simple concept of pipelining. Means parallel and parallel. So all this path will be operating in parallel, and data would be keep pushing into the each flop output in a pipelined fashion. Hope this concept is clear, pipelining. So next important topic is clock domain transfer. So when we how to design the circuit, while how to handle basically the clock domains, because design would have many multiple clocks, not single clock, of course. So most of the time when we design digital circuits, we have to handle say handshaking signals. Most of the time most of the handshaking signal would be say one clock wide pulse only. Say request is coming from some arbiter. So other logic should take that request and say request is coming from some peripheral to say arbiter, and arbiter should take that request and say bus or whatever is free and should give a grant. So most of the time this kind of handshaking signal will be one clock wide active pulse, and that should be properly handled. So I assume one logic is functioning say at one frequency, lower frequency, say 1 megahertz, and other is operating say higher frequency 100 megahertz. Means many clocks will be there in one, suppose low frequency time period, many clocks will be there in higher frequency time period. As in lower frequency time period, many higher frequency time period will be there. So if you are transferring this one single wide clock into another clock domain, usually we use a circuit called synchronizer. Say the X is this input, so this is the X, and the clock 1 is X is coming from say clock 1 flop. So X is coming from say clock 1 flop. Clock 1 flop. So we will be flopping this X by using 2 double flops, and that would be clocked at say clock to higher clock. So this is an asynchronous path because with respect to this edge may not be in sync. This edge may come some other point, so this edge can come say some other point also, not exactly in sync. So that's why it is called asynchronous. So there are chances to violate that. Since it's asynchronous means the X can change anytime as compared to the clock. So there are chances of violating the setup or hold window of this flow. So we should not take that into the other clock domain. So that's why we are using 2 flops. 2 flops we have to use. So if setup or hold is violating, there is a phenomena called a metastability. So metastability is nothing but in between stable state. So that means 5 volt is the logic levels, 5 and 0, 2.5 in between voltage level. If you get, then the circuit will enter into metastable state. So you can recall the inverter characteristics. John M. Rabe, that chapter you can learn and recall the inverter transfer characteristics. So input is a VDD by 2, output also would be VDD by 2. So it will loop. And basically all the flops are designed by using 2 inverters back to back. That's how SRAM cell will look like. So there would be a kind of latching operation will happen, and output would be in VDD by 2. But after a certain time, there will come back, that is called metastability resolution time, into a stable state. So metastability should not occur. If it occurs, then circuit will malfunction. So here, if you use 2 flops, say metastability will go. That is the theory says most of the synchronizer design. So that basically is also an interview question. How, say if you are saying this flop setup violation is happening here, this flop output will enter into say metastability state. Again, that is sampling by this flop. So there are chances of entering this flop also into metastable. So this we are directly taking into our circuit. So one thing is purely statistics. A probability of entering this flop into metastable state is more, 0.8 or 0.9, and definitely probability of this state will flop into metastability will come down, say 0.4. Total probability is now reduced 0.1 into 0.4, 0.36. So if you add one more flop, of course again probability will come down, and there would be a, if you see, if you sample as we drawn the timing earlier, this flop, if it is sampled, so there would, it will take some time after this enter into metastable state, and say before next edge only this data would be sampled, or previous data would be sampled by this edge. The previous data won't be in metastable state, and after this getting stabilized by, if it is getting stabilized with this edge, there won't be any problem. So chances of entering this into metastability would be very less. So that's why we put 2 flops. So one answer is purely statistics. Probability of entering this flop say 0.9, and probability of entering this would be less because of the clock period. First metastability resolution time would be less than the clock period most of the time, no issue, until unless clock is very high. So chances of entering this flop into metastability is less. So most of the cases, means 99% of the cases, this flop would be stable. Output would be stable. So that is one. And you can draw the timing and explain as well. So this is one important question. So as far as timing is concerned, when we transfer the data from one clock domain to another, say in this case, lower clock domain to higher clock domain, we are transferring. We can use, this is called, you can see net also synchronizer design, can use 2 flops, this kind of double flopping we need to use, so that data from one clock domain, say clock 1 to clock 2, can be properly stored. and the chance of metastability entering to Q1 is less as compared to Q0. So lower clock domain to higher clock domain. Similarly, we may need to transfer, say, data or handshaking signals like the single wide clock pulses from, say, higher clock domain to lower clock domain also. Say higher clock domain, pulse is very small, but lower clock domain, say, clock would be very high. So higher clock domain, single wide clock will be small, and lower clock domain, pulse clock would be very high. So if you use this kind of, say, double flopping technique, as with respect to clock 2 edge, say with respect to clock 2 lower clock edge, we cannot sample this. We may miss the handshaking signal. So there are chances, most of the time there are chances to miss. So there are rare chances that the clock we get exactly at this edge. Rare chance. So if handshaking signal is, if suppose we miss a handshaking signal from higher clock domain to lower clock domain, that's a critical case. So we entire circuit functionality may depend upon the sampling of this signal. So if you miss it, entire our logic may fail. So in that case, we need to design a circuit which ensures that whatever the single wide clock pulse in higher clock domain should be properly sampled at the lower clock domain. So you need to extend this pulse, say this pulse, till it is, say, properly sampled at this edge. That way we need to extend this pulse. So basically you need to design a logic, the circuit. So this is a higher clock domain, a data is coming, and there should be an interface that should extend this pulse in such a way that this edge is detected. So this circuit you can design, and maybe 1/2 an hour section we can discuss. So you can show your circuit how you are designing. So I think all of you got the problem. So we need to design a circuit now by drawing the timing diagram. So we discussed the basics of timing, flop timing, and few circuits we discussed. So based on that, you need to design a circuit which transfers this single wide pulse in higher clock domain to lower. Like this, say this pulse is coming every 1 second or 2 seconds, should not miss it by the lower clock domain. So this you can do it, and maybe next week sometime we can have a session, 1/2 an hour, we can discuss. You can show the circuit, you can draw the timing and try to design. This is also very important interview question. Most of the industries, they ask, how do you transfer a lower clock domain pulse into a higher clock domain pulse into a lower clock domain? So higher clock domain to lower clock domain, no problem. We can use a synchronizer. You can go to net, you can get enough information regarding this. But now from higher clock domain to, say, lower clock domain, if you want to transfer, how will you do the design? So you need to draw the timing and analyze and do the design of that circuit. So finally, we discussed many techniques. So this is basically the backend flow. So I can show you the So you can read this paper. So here we discussed complete design and implementation of, hope this is visible, right? This slide, design and implementation of design and physical implementation of single processor ASIC for sector imaging systems. So right from the architecture to FPGA emulation to DFT. So while doing design for testability, we have to use a kind of, when there is a different clock domain, we need to use kind of latch called lockup latches. Those kind of circuits we need to use. And finally, the complete design flow. So once you complete the ASIC synthesis, so I hope all of you are familiar with the flow, front-end flow at least. So once you complete the synthesis, so synthesis is basically, once you do the RTL code in Verilog or VHDL, we need to convert that into gate level. So while translating, we need to perform optimization in terms of, say, this kind of timing and area and power. So once synthesis is complete, we need to start the physical design. So there comes floor planning, placement, partitioning, placement, routing. So we have to use a tool called, say, Cadence Place and Route tool, Innovus. So the Innovus tool is the Cadence tool. Then physical, you can use Synopsys tool also, IC compiler is there. Otherwise, Cadence tools are the most powerful. Then we have to do physical verification. Once splice and route, everything is complete, LVS, that is called layout versus schematic, and DRC, that another tool is called Mentor Graphics. Calibre is the most commonly used tool. Then once LVS and DRC is clean, if it is not clean, again you have to do the floor planning, placement, and routing. So unless LVS and DRC is clean, we have to complete the placement and routing. Once it is clean, come to the timing. So there we can use the Synopsys PrimeTime or Cadence Tempus or Time it is there. Many tools are available. So PrimeTime is the most commonly used, most powerful tool. Then is timing is met. If it is not met, again you have to do the place and route. Go back to the place and route PNR tool and do the again whatever you add. So the input of the timing closure tool would be like, you can read whatever the parasitic PEX file, then RC path delay also. PEX file, once you do the LVS and DRC, we need to do a parasitic extraction, means entire delay, complete delay we get via parasitic extraction. We can do the Calibre, use the Calibre tool for PEX. And once the PEX is performed with that exact delay, we need to do the timing closure. And the output of that timing analysis, STA timing analysis tool will give, so like we discussed, clock network we can change, data path we can change, and critical path we can change. So that tool will give wherever we want to do the optimize, like wherever we need to add the buffers or combo path of those kind of changing the combo path. That kind of information would be given by this timing closure tool. So that information again we have to take back into our place and route tool, and we can, so we will be getting what are the critical path and which path is having this setup violation. So where we in this path, say this critical clock skew clock path, we can add the buffer so that the setup violation will go, or we can remove some buffer so that hold violation will go. So those kind of information, or data path we can add some buffers. So those kind of information we will be getting from the static timing analysis tool output. So that tool will give that output. That output we need to use into the place and route tool. Again, do the placement and routing, means change that all those locations. Again, give to the timing closure tool with the parasitic PEX. And again, check the output until we get the slack 0. So if you use this timing only, so means after layout backend, if we use the timing only, we get the exact timing information about our circuit. Otherwise, after synthesis also you get some timing. So that is basically an estimate of this much, say this circuit will operate, say at this frequency of or this much delay. This is the maximum delay corner. That information is basically an estimate, but actual we get once we perform the place and route and perform a PEX parasitic extraction and give that along with the layout files and PEX to our timing closure tool. So timing closure tool will give the wherever we want to do the fix to solve the timing, to meet our timing. So this how the tool also will work in this case. So if timing is met, no issue. Otherwise, it is an iterative process. Then once the timing is met, again, of course, we need to go for DFM, design for manufacturability. So there we need to metal fill, as per fabric, metal fill, metal coverage, silicon number, seal ring, many things. You need to insert dummy using Virtuoso, another tool. And again, we need to LVS DRC and post layout verification. Once layout is ready, we'll get in post layout netlist we can generate and do our test bench verification and finally release the GDS. That is how the flow the backend flow. So basically timing closure is the most very important. We have to do timing, otherwise finally the chip comes, we may end up in trouble to get the frequency of operation. Similarly, we need to propagate the clock while doing the timing closure. We need to propagate. So once we propagate during the timing analysis, all the clocks in the decision need to be propagated to exhibit the actual clock network delay. So if you have, suppose there's a command called clock propagation. If you have not propagated the clock, then timing closure tool will assume that there won't be any clock delay, so that skew and network delay won't be properly modeled, and thus that in turn will give us wrong timing. So that is also important while fixing the